Hello, everyone. It's Fred Staub and Les Jackson. We have got a great show this week, Les. A lot of 2025 model news and information,
Yep,
um, pricing, new specs. Got a lot of different vehicles. Interesting. The first one we're going to look at is the Ford Bronco. And what's interesting here is they're bringing back the base model, which had gone away for a while, and that will be great for people wanting to get into that vehicle at the base level. All models are going to get a lot more content, and that's also a good thing, isn't it?
that is, yeah. And, base models, there's an attractive price that brings you into the dealership. So that's a good deal. And Hyundai is rolling out the range and charging decals on the new Ioniq 5.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The Ioniq 5 is a popular model, and it's
Yep.
going to, really do well. And then no regrets. We're going to talk about GM. They want to get rid of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, go with their own proprietary system. Well,
Mm,
they have no regrets. Their engineers like, yeah, I can't wait for it to happen. I'm not so sure it's a good idea.
I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it'll bring people to GM, but we'll see. We'll talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
And over at Mazda, the beloved MX-5 Miata will stick with gas power, and there's a new internal combustion engine on the way. So, talk about a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely big success for them. And, do you think they'll ever like boost the horsepower of the Miata, or is the
I,
lack of horsepower a plus?
I think no. I think it's it's like the right recipe for a cake, and the right suit or dress. You don't mess with it.
All right, all right. And then fuel sniffer. Yes, talking tech, fuel sniffer.
Speaking, yes.
Porsche has come up with some technology that will allow the use of synthetic fuel, and we will explain that when we do that story. Because, and then I'm going to share my experience with the Honda Prologue, their all-electric crossover. It's the first electric crossover from Honda. The vehicle was great, but some of the things I encountered looking to charge it were not so great. But the vehicle itself was great. Very, very quick vehicle, and the range is 296 miles for the front wheel drive and 281 for the all wheel drive. So the
Okay.
range is getting up there. But charging it, not Honda's fault, but it is basically the infrastructure fault.
The word is problematic.
Problematic and interesting. So that is all coming up on Cruise Control. We are about to go live in just a little bit. So we will be right back with you.
All right. I'll come in.
This is Cruise Control.
Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin because you're on
Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
And that's right. You are on Cruise Control. Welcome to Cruise Control. This is your on air automotive magazine. And as we always are, we're here to give you all the latest. I am Les Jackson. The handsome guy over there is Fred Staub.
Who?
And we've got some a nice variety this week on what's going on, and we've both been working on a lot of stories all week for various uh, reasons and situations. But this one, we are going to talk about 2025s.
Yeah,
Of course.
2025s, Les, including the Ford Bronco. a lot going on with the Ford Bronco. They've got like a matte film you can put over the vehicle to protect it. The base model returns, which is big news if people were finding the other models a bit expensive. And every vehicle gets more content. So we'll tell you about what's going on at the Ford plant and with Ford Bronco.
This is there. You know what, Fred? They're taking the example from Hyundai and Kia. And speaking of Hyundai, they've rolled out the range and charging details on the refreshed 2025 Ioniq 5, which is a terrific car.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You drove that and were pretty impressed with it, weren't you?
Very impressed with it. It's even terrificer.
More terrific. Then we're going to talk about GM. You know, they made big news when they said, hey, we're getting rid of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It alienated a lot of people. People use this a lot. They were going to go with their own proprietary system. There was pushback, but GM saying, doesn't matter. We're going to do it.
All I can say is that
good luck with that one.
Good luck with it. And Mazda says the MX-5 Miata, everybody loves it, will stick with gasoline-powered engines, and they even got a new one on the way. So they just get better and better.
Yeah, they do, and I think a lot of people are happy that it will stay gas-powered. And then we'll talk tech. Porsche sniffing out synthetic fuel. They're making synthetic fuel down in Chile, so we will talk about that and why sniffing it out is a good thing. It takes a little explanation.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you about my thoughts on the Honda Prologue. I spent a week in this vehicle. It is Honda's first all-electric crossover, and the vehicle itself was great, but finding public charging was not. So we'll talk about those stories when we come back on Cruise Control. I'm Fred Staub. He's Les Jackson. We will be right back. We are your on-air automotive magazine. Stay tuned. You know, Les, I don't know about you, but the charging infrastructure in my area is terrible. I went to 4 different charging facilities. 3 of them were broken. I finally found one that had one working slow charger. And one of them, I went there and Uber drivers were there. And they said, this is only for Uber drivers, which is not. It's an EV Go. It's right. It's like saying this store is only for me. Yeah. So, by the way, I think they were driving Neros and the Toyota plug-in car. I think that would be a terrible car for.
I would think for Uber.
For Uber, yeah. 250 miles of range, slow to charge. I would definitely go with a hybrid Corolla or something like that, or hybrid Camry or
I think
a Honda model.
I certainly would. I think cost effective in the long run, better off.
Well, I thought this too, because hybrid cars have a lot of range and all that. Apparently, there are people that are Uber customers that will only ride in electric cars, and this must be that area of the clientele that they're serving. That's my only thought, because I mean, I would just go with a hybrid and get like 500 miles of range. I could keep driving around all day long,
Well, that's right, and it is electric. But you know what? I guess if you're stuck in that mode and yet you want something with greater range, get a hybrid and then go buy yourself a used 6-year-old Fiat electric.
Get 90 miles of range,
and
you'd never make money. You
can buy it for $6,000 or $8,000.
I guess so. It just shows that the vehicles are great. I think the vehicles drive well and do well.
You're wonderful,
but the infrastructure is terrible. It
It is. It's really not considerably better around my area. There's a shopping center 3 or 4 miles away that has a Target there, and they've got, I think it's 8 charging stations, all level 3.
Wow, that's good.
So you statistically you stand a good chance of
Of
just
getting,
driving up and
yeah,
plugging in. But then
yeah,
it's 45 minutes to an hour.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Something needs to happen before a greater adoption of
Yeah.
electric vehicles. But tell us what you think in our comments. We'll be right back.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Les, you're a fan of the Ford Bronco, right?
Yeah, actually, I really enjoyed. I drove one of the very earliest ones, and I was quite impressed with it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about what's coming up for Ford's Bronco for 2025, shall we?
Let's do that.
Yes. So what's happening is there are a number of special editions. There's an available factory matte clear film, which goes over the paint and helps protect the paint on the trail, plus a new black appearance package. And one of the biggest things I think that people are looking forward to is the return of the base model Bronco, which had taken a break for a year or two. And, that allows people to get into it. They want a more basic model. They want one that's just for the trail. They don't need the Sasquatch package or anything like that. I think it's great that they're bringing it back, don't you?
I think that you've really hit on a very sore point in the industry, and that is people. They just feel they're spending too much money, and I think there's going to be a huge groundswell of people just wanting base models.
Yeah.
Because there's an awful lot in base models, and your people are willing to take it. In fact, I'm going with a neighbor of mine next week to go buy the basest model of Camry he can find.
Wow. Okay. And I'm sure that will be pretty well equipped, and of course it will be a
sure.
It will be a
It's a
hybrid.
hybrid, right.
They're all, yeah. Looking forward to getting into the new hybrid, Camry hybrid. It's coming up on my schedule, so we'll talk about that. But what the good news? Every 2025 Ford Bronco includes new standard equipment, including the 12-inch digital gauge cluster that replaces the normal 8-inch display and physical speedometer. So those go away for everyone. That was originally brought in for the Bronco Raptor. Premium display, sports, vivid graphics, and dedicated animations. So that will be in every vehicle now, every new Bronco. It is a 12-inch cluster and a Sync 4 infotainment system in all trims as part of the new 2025 model year. All Bronco Sasquatch-equipped models will include new 35-inch Goodyear Territory rugged terrain tires. I wonder what each one of those tires cost, huh?
Oh, they're never cheap. Plus, they're never particularly soft.
The 12-speaker B&O audio system replaces the previous 10-speaker system, includes upgraded speakers. And then, as we said, the base trim, it took a 1-year hiatus. That's back. And the black diamond trim becomes part of the Big Ben package. There's that new black appearance pack with removable hardtop, painted shadow black, black molded in color caps, black molded in fender flares, black molded in door handles, and black molded in grille with Bronco lettering and black graphics package. Interesting. Black mirrors used to be part of the base. Now they are an appearance package, right?
That's right. It does not come with free car washes for obvious reasons.
No.
Yep.
And then, of course, they have a couple of different special edition packages, which, as I always say, they take the page from Mustang because special edition packages sell well. They can get more money for them, and they just keep the excitement about the Bronco. They all get also more sound insulation, which is an interesting update for a vehicle like this, isn't it?
Yeah, typically vehicles like this aren't terribly concerned with sound insulation, although, because so many people, that's their only vehicle, and they're on the highway all the time.
Yes.
Going to work, I think they do want these things to be a little quieter.
Yes, and they're also adding rear climate vents on all four-door models. So a lot of little upgrades and things like that. As you know, talking to you and talking to our friends at Corvette, there's hundreds of improvements each year in a model as it goes.
That's right.
Even if they don't call them out, it could be anything from as simple as a new gasket, so it redirects water when you open the door and it doesn't splash the carpet, or something's fastened a little bit better, a hinge is upgraded. It's always there continuous improvement on these things, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, don't go running out every year buying something new, but
hey, if you do, we'll tell you what to buy here on Cruise Control. Fred Stubb and Les Jackson, we're coming right back with more Cruise Control. We're going to take a look at the Ioniq 5 from Hyundai. What do you remember? What model Bronco you drove, Les, when you?
Well, there was the Sport, which of course is based on the Escape.
The Bronco Sport, yeah.
Bronco Sport, yeah. That was the first one.
Yes.
And then the Bronco, a few months later. The Sport was delightful. I mean, it just rode great. It was quiet. It was smooth, very peppy.
I remember having that parked in the driveway, and everyone thought it was the Bronco. And the area where I am, we were having carpentry work done. I looked out my front window, and I just saw a pair of legs. The guy was laying under the Bronco, looking at it, looking how it was built or whatever. But I was like, what's going on there?
That's right.
And I came out and I told him, he said, that's the new Bronco. I said, it's the new Bronco Sport. So he was like, what?
I was at the Target, actually at a CVS, picking up something with the Bronco, and a guy walked up and said, did you know that's the new Bronco?
No, I didn't.
I said, well, yeah. He saw the manufacturer's tag, and it was just amusing because I'm thinking, well, how would I not know?
I don't know what I'm driving? Wow.
Yeah.
That would be kind
I
of
guess
sad.
he thought maybe I rented it or.
I did have somebody, when I had the C8 Corvette, come up to me and say, what is this? And I said, well, it's the new C8 Corvette. It's now mid-engine. And he goes, Corvette, who makes that?
Wow. Well, now, are you sure you live in the United States?
Interesting. But, hey, it's a different perspective. I mean, they're not like our listeners who know about vehicles and love them. They are just, it's A to B,
there
man.
There are people who have no interest whatsoever.
It's hard to believe, but it's true. Yes.
I don't know. It's not hard. Honestly, it's not hard for me because I'm well known. I have no interest in football and baseball and basketball. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that think, well, how could anybody not be interested in those? But
yeah,
I don't.
It's what's great. Everyone's into what they're into. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're coming in, Les Jackson.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. Fred and I are going to go electric. Well,
Personally?
no, for the next few minutes. Hyundai has just given us information on the updated range and price for the 2025 Ioniq 5 lineup,
Hmm.
well, the range is pretty good, pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, the rear-wheel drive model gets 318 miles.
Yeah, that's decent.
That's
Uh,
very decent.
it's not often people drive 318 miles in it, let's say a given week.
No, unless you're on a road trip, and
Yeah,
then you
I
might
mean
do it in a
even
day.
that's 15, 16,000 miles a year. The average is more like 12.
I always wonder what is the average range. We do a lot of stories on cruise control about, you know, looking at the whole fleet of new cars. What is the average range of a gas-powered non-hybrid car?
Um,
Is it 300 miles?
it's actually close to 400, but I've actually looked into this, and this was just by sheer coincidence, um, because I was very curious when I got my new car, what range is built into to new vehicles, and it's typically around 400. And the thought is that people driving these kind of nonstop really need to stop at 400 miles and get out
And stretch.
and rest for a
Yeah.
while. So
Yeah.
um, back in the day, you'll remember this. I certainly do. 200 miles was pretty much what was built into the gas tank.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, things were getting 6 miles to the gallon. And
or or 10
yeah,
but the fact is, everything rode differently, and there was the noise levels, and it was fatiguing, so you stop for gas every 150 or 175 miles. Now you can stop for gas. You'll stop on your trips, but you probably don't have to stop for gas till you get close to 400.
yes. Well, back to the Ioniq 5. Let's jump back in. DC fast charging with the CSS adapter, 50 kilowatt DC fast charging can go from 10 to 80% in 1 hour and 1 minute. That's pretty good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
But, and then AC level 2 charging can go to 10 to 100% in 5 hours and 40 minutes.
That's not
Now, this is
as
with
good
the
as not
smaller
bad.
battery. This is with the 63
Five-
kilowatt hour
yeah.
battery. With the bigger
5
battery,
hours. Yeah.
it's 7 hours and 20 minutes. But still,
Yeah.
Les, that's not bad because, you can be at home and plug it in and,
That's right.
so not bad. And you don't have to go up to 100%. Do you really want to go up to, 95%?
Exactly. And again, where the charging infrastructure is not there yet.
No, not the public infrastructure.
Just as gasoline infrastructure wasn't there in the 1920s or teens.
Yes.
But it will be, and it won't be that long. So if you're on the interstates, pretty much no trouble. You could just get going, stop at a major fuel station whenever you want to stop, and they'll be charging there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's one by me. There's an interstate close by me, but you would have to get on. You would have to charge up. Then you have to go over a bridge for $6.
Whoa.
Turn around and come back over the bridge for another $6 so you
Whoa.
could get back and get off that highway. Isn't that crazy?
Well, now
There's a
would find
Chick-fil-A
another
there,
exit.
too. I would go, if I could easily swing around, charge the car, pick up Chick-fil-A, and turn around and come back again. It's so weird that there's no way to do that, but it makes it's like $12 for nothing, just to turn your car
you're
around.
also paying for the charge.
Yeah, so But there's what part of the infrastructure problem. It tells you that on all
Yeah.
these sites as like, where is that? Oh, well, that's on the highway that I have to be paying a toll for. So,
Yeah, we have an infrastructure charging station. It's just a level 2 that's listed, and it's in the apartment building next to me, and you have to get in the garage, which you have to have a code to get in the garage.
right, it's for owners.
But it's considered a public charging station. That's just crazy.
Well, back to the Ioniq 5. Let's
Right.
talk about that. Pricing on this, right? The Ioniq 5 SE rear-wheel drive, 168 horsepower, standard range, driving range of 245, which is not that bad, 42,500. And then
That's okay.
that's
Getting
okay.
up there.
The Limited has a rear-wheel drive. It's the Limited model, 225 horsepower, 318 of range. Significant boost in the price, 54,200.
Right.
And then Ioniq 5 dual motor all-wheel drive, 320 horsepower, dual motor, driving range 290, 53,000.
Would
then
you
Would
Oh,
I
go
go?
ahead.
Would I go all-wheel drive?
would you go dual motor?
I don't know. It does cut
I mean, it's
significant.
just faster.
Yeah.
You're not gaining anything else.
Top of the range, Ioniq 5 limited dual motor all-wheel drive, driving range 269. I guess the additional equipment slices some range of that. $58,100, which is
That's beginning to get significant, I think is the word.
yeah. They have that XRT model too, which is sort of an off-road model, which is kind of bizarre. 23 millimeter suspension lift, XRT specific 18-inch black alloy wheels, XRT terrain mode drive selector. A lot of manufacturers have gone to these, let's say, more husky models to do off-roading and SUVs.
Yeah.
And Hyundai's done it with this XRT model with the Ioniq 5 electric. So that's kind of an interesting play, I think. Don't you?
Well, shows you what the public wants. It's that whole get out there into the open fields, which
With your
doesn't-
electric
does-
vehicle, yeah.
That's right. And that's kind of a desirable thing.
Yeah. Well, put it in the comments. What do you think? XRT, off-road, lifted electric vehicle, all-wheel drive. Is that something you take on the trail? Is it trail ready, like Jeep says? Well,
Yeah, I'd be worried about it getting all scratched, but
you need to get that film from Ford, that matte
Well,
finish
yeah.
film. I kind of like that. I kind of like that matte finish film. I think is pretty cool. Let's talk about this, and we do have a break coming up here in a second. But what happens when a company thinks they know better than their customers? And that might be the case here with GM when it comes to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is in every vehicle, almost every vehicle,
well, yes,
except soon GM vehicles.
GM.
I mean, what it offers you is a interface that you're used to. You can put your destination in your phone ahead of time and then just plug your phone right in, or not even plug your phone in wirelessly.
Yeah.
And it's great. And people are used to this and they like it. GM
Yes.
says they don't really want you to have this Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So they're coming up with their own way of doing it, and we want to know, what do you think of that idea? Is that a good idea or not? Let us know. When we come back, we'll discuss it on Cruise Control. So, Les, you think they may be on to something here at GM? I mean, we're not apparently talking about Google built in, which a lot of cars have, which means
Right.
like this Prologue I had, it had Google built in, which means it's Google is always on collecting data, but it's always there. Navigation system. If you forget your phone, lose your phone, it flies out the window or whatever, you still have a navigation system. But this Prologue had Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well. So why can't they do something like that where they have them both?
Well, I don't know what the motivation is, but I think that that they believe they can do this better than CarPlay and Android Auto. So can you do better than that? And I guess the question is, if you think you can do better than that, what are you going to do that's more attractive? Is it going to be so intuitive that people who hate setting these up will be drawn to it?
Well, maybe
Got to be
part of,
pretty intuitive.
as you know, all of the studies say what are people most annoyed with in cars, and it's
Yep.
infotainment because the Bluetooth doesn't link up or it's hard to find. I mean, one of the things that took a little figuring out for me is when you are listening to, let's say, Sirius XM radio, and you want to go back to the navigation system. We're going to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
You're
Cruise control.
And welcome back. Welcome back. We are going to tackle this issue with GM right now about getting rid of Apple CarPlay and
yeah.
Android Auto. And Fred, you had something that you were about to say that I think starts it off very well.
Well, the idea is who knows better. If the owners want Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, why can't you give them that, but also with this proprietary system? Now, I was driving the Honda Prologue this week. It has Google built in, which is always on, which is so if your phone is gone, you forget it, you still have navigation, Google, everyone knows the interface. But you can also do Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, right? Which gives you all the options. GM was worried about Apple taking over their dashboard, so they decided we're going to roll our own and go with their own system. And recently, a GM Senior Vice President of Software Services, Baris Sedok, talked to The Verge, and he said, "Hey, we're going to replace smartphone projection with its native software." So, smartphone projection is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You know what's going to happen? People are going to go out on Amazon and get one of those $50 Android Auto Apple CarPlay monitors. Have you ever seen those things? And just like glue it to their dashboard so they can have.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you don't want to buy a new vehicle and have to plaster some kind of a
screen,
an aftermarket device to make it work. I just think if they come up with a very, very clever piece of software that just says, okay, you want this to connect to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this is what you do, 3 or 4 steps, then they're okay. But if it's the equivalent of the BMW iDrive when it came out,
with so many menus,
I'm not kidding,
so little
594 menu steps, then you're not going to sell many vehicles.
Well, also, does it matter if it's better if people don't want it? You know what I mean? Like there's been many cases in the automotive world where something was better, but people didn't want it. So what's the point if you can't sell it?
So is it going to be replacing all of the capabilities of your phone?
I don't know. And then there was the theory that this was kind of a money grab, that GM wanted to say, well, you know, you don't get Android Auto on Apple CarPlay, but for $25 a month, you get our proprietary system.
Oh.
Now, we don't know if they're going to do that, but I tell you what, if they do, do you remember when BMW was charging for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay?
Yep.
And then Hyundai's like, no, we put it in all our cars. Free of charge. It just comes with
That's
it.
right. This subscription thing
is dumb.
Really turns me off.
It's dumb.
No, I just won't do it.
Yeah, it is really, really not good. So I don't know. I would love our listeners to chime in on this. I think most people want Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. People are used to it. You know, the early days of Nav, every system was completely different, and we would drive all those different vehicles, and it's like, what do I say? What is it? I think people want one interface, and they want it to easily connect with Bluetooth and that. I don't know. I still think I think they might be going down the wrong path on this.
But still, right now, we still have flaws with these CarPlays because some vehicles you have to physically plug your phone in with a USB cable.
Well,
even though it's projected on it, you can't use it unless it's plugged in.
That's true. That's true.
And that's okay, but in some cases, when you plug it in, it's trying to charge your phone, and it tends, in many cases, to be putting too much voltage out, so your battery gets real hot, and that's not good.
That's interesting problem for sure. I don't know. I just think, though, if people want Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, you got to give them what they want, you know? It's like a band. If you said, we're not playing any of our hits tonight, we're only going to play new music.
Yeah. Also, if everybody else in the industry is doing it, do it.
Yeah, that's true. Let's move on to Mazda, shall we? Mazda Miata, a favorite vehicle of many. I am not a favor of the Miata. It's too small for my taste. I feel like I'm wearing it.
Too small for me?
Yeah, but please don't hate me for it. I believe I think it's a great autocross car, cheap way to get into racing, all that. But there's some reports this week. This comes from an article in Car Buzz that the next generation of Mazda Miata MX-5. By the way, I think they should just decide, is it an MX-5 or a Miata? I think.
Well, as far as Mazda goes, it's an MX-5.
Right, but no one knows what that is.
But Americans don't care what the manufacturer thinks. They say it's a Miata.
Yeah.
So my advice, call it a Miata.
Yeah, okay. It's sort of like the Rabbit. Remember when they called the Rabbit again for 1 year, and then they went back to the Golf. But the next generation of the MX-5 or Miata, whichever you want to call it, is coming, and it is, according to this article in Car Buzz, it is going to be gasoline powered. It is not going to be electric. And there's going to be a new Skyactiv Z engine, which will use a combustion method called Lambda 1, which sounds like a science fiction space ship name.
See, now all of the manufacturers are starting to call their new engines with Greek letters. My car is the Theta engine.
That's true.
Yeah,
I
Alpha,
believe Hyundai did that.
Beta, everybody's doing it.
So the idea of Lambda 1 is it is a high thermal efficiency by realizing super lean burn combustion over a wide range from low to high RPM. Environmental performance and driving performance will be the result of this. Thermal efficient engines are what, 20% thermal efficient?
In some cases, up to about 30%. They've really come a long way.
apparently they're going to move further into efficiency with this Lambda 1. We
Well,
don't know a lot about it.
yeah. If you go back to the 60s when you had all the, the muscle cars and the 427s, those were about 16% thermally
Wow.
efficient.
Wow.
Well, not as bad as an incandescent light bulb in your lamp, which is 10%
Now,
at best.
they say this engine will meet the Euro 7 standards and the Lev 4 Tier 4 standards coming up. They believe they're going to bring it to market by 2027, which means we'll probably see it in the U.S. in 2027, which means there's a new Miata on the way. I think it's good news, and I don't think the internal combustion engine is disappearing anytime soon.
Well, and I don't think Miata owners are disappearing anytime soon either. They
No.
they love their Miatas. They continue to buy them until they just get either too frail or old to be able to get in and out.
Yes.
So, love what you got.
Run what you brung.
It's just a great car.
Hey, I want to get to this story from Porsche. It's a talking tech story. They are building or making synthetic fuel down in Chile. They believe this is a real future. Mm-hmm. The European Union standards of 2035, which will ban fossil fuels, have a little right in that a little provision for synthetic fuel, but the vehicle must be able to determine that it is not using fossil fuel and it is using synthetic fuel. It must shut off if it uses fossil fuel. Porsche engineers have come up with a system called a fuel sniffer, which can tell the difference by electronically smelling the difference between fossil fuel and synthetic fuel. And this will get them around the ban on internal combustion engines. Pretty exciting technology. And that is coming up. So
that is very, very clever.
We will be right back with more Cruise Control after this. Now, Les, what do you think about that? That's I have to say hats off to the engineers at being able to sniff synthetic fuel versus.
Well, but you can create sniffers. I mean, the drug administration.
You put a dog in your trunk and he smells.
Put a dog in your trunk.
That's gasoline. Can't run
now,
on that.
And they came up with a very simple, although I'm sure the chemistry of it and the electronics is pretty complex, but they can the sniffer will sniff the gasoline just like you and I would. And the first thing I have to say to anybody is don't sniff your gasoline.
It does smell good sometimes, though.
It's very, very bad for you.
I know. A lot of people like the smell.
I love the smell of the old gasolines with lead in it.
Which also is not good for you.
And I can't imagine what happened to me over the years. But today's gas, I don't like the smell of it.
Yeah.
There's something about it.
They say this can be added in as like a piggyback CPU and would be able to adapt. Older Porsches would be able to use synthetic fuel and also, it would take care of that EU 2035 combustion ban. So turn engineers loose on it, right?
Hey, give us the money and we'll figure it out.
Give us the money and we will figure it out. Exactly. So, I love that when an industry can come around and figure these things out.
Yeah.
This was, by the way, a new patent unearthed by Car Moses, who looks into different filings for patents and things like that. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more about them. Be great to see how that plant works with synthetic fuel. And, this could be fitted back to muscle cars and things like that. We don't have this requirement in the U.S. That you can't use any gasoline after 2035. But I think I do like how they've come around this, and it will determine what the odors are, and synthetic fuel will be a good solution to this. It's pretty exciting. We want to hear what you think. When we come back, we're going to review the Prologue, which is from Honda, and we will talk about that when we come back on Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
Welcome back to Cruise Control. It's at the wheel time, and this week I spent a week in the Honda Prologue, which is their electric crossover, and it was interesting. Honda's first electric crossover. I'm going to tell you all about it, and I have to say the range on this model is pretty impressive, Les. If you get the two-wheel drive, 296 miles of range, all-wheel drive, like the model we tested, which was the Prologue Elite all-wheel drive, 281 miles of range. And I found that this thing was quite snappy on the road. You could make instant lane changes, not even in the sport mode. Frankly, the sport mode just changed the pitch of the sound of the vehicle, which is pretty prominent. I'll talk about that in a minute. But in normal mode, when you make lane changes, it's neck snapping. It really hauls. And the range and the regeneration seemed to stay up there, even with some spirited driving. On the inside, you've got this kind of two-tone interior. I'm not sure if it's leather. It's leather-like, at least. Ventilated seats, heated and ventilated seats, and that sort of tan and black look. The steering wheel is familiar to any Honda owner. Mostly soft finishes on the front door cards. That's a little bit different on the back door cards. A lot of piano black. Two displays, all electronic, of course. One of the navigation displays stands proud, but you still have lots of buttons and knobs, buttons for heated seats, heated steering wheel, defrost. Most things were easy to find, except for one. We'll tell you about that in a second. But mostly standard Honda controls, easy HVAC. Got a couple of USB-C ports. It's an empty, wide open area on the center console because the shifter is on the stalk, and a couple of USB-C things there. It's got a pocket phone charger, which I like a lot. Your phone doesn't fly around. No control for the headlights. Where is it? Not on this stalk. Not on this kind of tender shifter. I didn't quite like the way that felt. It felt a little tender. Yep. It's up on the touch screen. It was getting dark. It's like, where do I turn the headlights on? It's up on the touch screen along with things like head-up display and the dome light, power window lockup, traction control, things like that are all up on the... I don't particularly like that, I have to tell you.
Well, but you can set it for auto, can't you?
You can set it for auto, yes. So this had Google built in and Google Play, so you can get all the apps. So it's sort of like having a computer on your dashboard. But it also had Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is nice. So we pull that piano black handle and go into the back. A lot of leg room in this model. Of course, obviously no hump for drive shaft, but just a lot of leg room, a lot of good headroom as well. Hard plastic on the back doors and still soft armrests and padding on the trim, but hard plastic there. Not much going on for rear passengers, and 110-volt socket and a couple of USB-Cs. Overall, Nice design on the interior. The vehicle has high hips and is very squared off, so it seems to lead to a larger interior. But excellent leg room, as I demonstrate there. Seats fold relatively flat and give you good storage. Nothing outstanding there, but decent rear storage. Out back, we have nice storage and not a lot of amenities, a light and I believe a 12-volt plug, but that's okay. Underneath, you get a inflator system because there is no spare because of the battery, and which has become pretty much common in most electric vehicles. No charger was in this vehicle. I believe it does come with a charger. You get a couple of options, which I'll explain in a second. Nice storage back there, too. This had 288 horsepower under the hood, and it was a nicely packaged power plant. These power plants almost look like a four-cylinder engine, but it was nicely packaged and plenty of power. As I said, I don't know whether it's the all-wheel drive or what, but boy, it was snappy. And I look at that power plant, I think of what could I put that in? It's pretty compact, except for the battery pack, but it's pretty compact. And a lot of room between it has a fan and a radiator for just cooling the electronics, I imagine. But a lot of room there. So high hips on the outside, low glass, greenhouse look. It didn't break barriers on the styling, but that's okay. We had the larger wheels on this model, the 21-inch alloy wheels, which is for the Elite. And as I said, the all-wheel drive dual motor. Sonic gray is the color. And you can get a couple of different packages. One for charging is an EVgo $750 worth of charge package that you get over the lifetime of the vehicle. So $750 worth of electric charge from EVgo. That's option one. You can get a level 2 bundle, which includes a level 2 charger and $500 towards the installation. Or you can get the third package, which gives you a 110-volt charger, $300 of EVgo charging, and $250 to install a socket, a regular 110-volt socket. You get any one of those choices included in the price. And so you get a couple of different options there. By the way, let's talk about the price. The EX model, which is the base, starts at $47,400, Touring $51,700, and the Elite was $57,900. So our miles started at $57,900. We added $455 for the Sonic Gray paint. And then there was the destination and handling, $1,395, a total as tested of $59,750. The good news is here that you do get the $7,500 tax credit for this vehicle. So I'm sure that will bring it down to like 52, something like that, which is not that bad as far as these things go, I would imagine, for that range and all-wheel drive. I felt like I'm 5'8", and I had to raise the seat up high. I felt like the hood was high and the belt line was kind of high, and I felt like I was slipping down in it a little bit.
It looks very much like a Volvo.
It looks very much like a Volvo. Thank you for saying that, Les. It definitely, I was looking at it when I was taking the video and thinking, this is very Volvo-like.
Yeah. And that's a compliment.
That's a compliment, yeah. And I think the 21-inch wheels look good on this. Fast charge, this gets 65 miles of, if you're going at the fastest charging level, 65 miles of range after 10 minutes, which is nice. If you can find a working charger, which I couldn't. Yeah. I had many issues trying to find a working charger, which is not Honda's fault, but it makes you wonder if you want to buy an electric vehicle at this point. But I love the graphics on the back too. The font style that says Honda on the back. Just something about it. I thought it was good. Their first foray, they'll certainly be bringing out other models. I don't like the headlight switch being in that weird location. I thought there used to be a law; it had to be on the left. So
I don't know if that's actually a law.
No. Anyway, we appreciate you listening to Cruise Control. It's time for me to say I'm Fred Staub.
I'm Les Jackson.
We are going to see you down the road.
Bye.